And welcome. It's Monday. Welcome to the Deal Doctor. I'm going to apologize right up front and tell you that I'm having a lot of fun with allergies. I don't know if anybody else is out there, but the pollen is pretty robust out there, and it's wreaking havoc on me. So if I jump up and go take care of business with my nose, don't be surprised. Anyway, let's talk about Fizbos. Oh, those Fizbos. Nasty, nasty Fizbos. They can be very challenging, but we are in a seller's market, and Fizbos are feeling very confident that they can sell their homes on their own. They believe that they can sell their home without paying a realtor, and in many cases, they're right. Fizbos also believe, and they will continue to believe, that realtors charge too much money for what they do. Fizbos think they know more than realtors do. They see no value in what we offer. The only thing that will change a Fizbo's mind is time and failure. Time and failure. When they fail over a period of time to sell their house themselves, they will contact a realtor. Even when they decide to list, they will rarely admit the realtor was worth the money they paid him or her. So, the reality is, according to NAR research, 93% of all real estate sales involve a realtor. Only 7% are Fizbos are successful in selling their homes themselves. Now, what's interesting about that is that in 1981, 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago, their Fizbo sales were 15% of home sales. Today, it's less than half of that. The forms, the disclosures, the title work, legal commitments, and requirements have all become far more complex. We are a society of specialists. Consider doctors, for example. The old family doctor is a thing of the past in most cases. The general practitioner refers patients to dermatologists, podiatrists, orthopedic surgeons, or urologists, and so on. Families are too busy to market, show, and negotiate their home sale. Realtors are specialists in selling houses. Here's a fact for you. More than 50% of all real estate lawsuits in Michigan involve for sale by owner transactions. Now, on the surface, that may not sound like it's out of line, but think about it. When you consider that more than 90% of all home sales involve realtors, that means that a Fizbo has 10 times greater chance of winding up in a court battle by going it alone. 10 times more chance to end up in court. And the reason is because Fizbos are not accustomed, practiced in creating contracts that are enforceable and that have consequences. So without consequences, they end up in court for a judge to determine what the outcome, what the interpretation of the contract is. Here's another interesting fact by NAR Research, National Association of Realtors, says that the average for sale by owner house sold for 23% less than the average agent-assisted transaction. 23% less on average. Again, think about that. If you charge 7 or 6%, for example, they're actually leaving money on the table by not hiring you, then more money on the table by not hiring you than if they had hired you. In fact, somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 or 17% of their money they're leaving on the table. Now, I'll just say on a $200,000 house, that's about $34,000. That's a lot of money. It's very simple. Imagine, again, 93% of all homes being realtor assisted. Only 7% sell by owner. That means that a Fizbo is only reaching 7% of the potential buyers by not being on the MLS and websites like 5star.com, realtor.com, Coldwell Banker, Remax, and so on. So they're not getting the exposure that they would if they had listed with a realtor, and therefore they're not getting offers which are reflective of the 93% of the competition out there. Now, with all of those things I said about for sale by owners, why in the world would you want to prospect for Fizbos? Simple. Many of them will eventually list. The key word here is eventually. Work Fizbos for the long haul. Building a pipeline of Fizbo prospects is essential to working Fizbos successfully. Keep your system simple. If you make it too complex, you'll stop doing it and your pipeline will dry up. For example, step 1, knock on door. Give them something with your name and phone number, like your business card or a small brochure. Step 2, collect at least 10 Fizbo addresses, name and phone numbers each week, but no more than 20. Pace yourself. Avoid sprinting. This is a marathon. Step 3, stick to your plan. No excuses. Every week, send them something. Call every 3rd week until they list, they sell, or they die. That's from Floyd Wickman. Anyway, no excuses. It doesn't matter what you send. It only matters that you send something. Step 4, after 10 weeks of sending something to them, throw the lead in the trash. Step 5, every week, add another 10 names and addresses to a new list. The week number 2 list, for example. Do the same for them as the week number 1 list. After 10 weeks, you'll be mailing 100 pieces per week, 1 piece to everyone on the 10 weeks of lists. Very simple. In fact, after week 4, let me continue this. After week 4, you'll be the only one in contact with them or one of a very few. Agents give up very quickly on Fizbos way before the Fizbo throws in the towel. Be the one that's still there when they give up, when time and failure have changed their mind. There was a Remax agent I worked with. He had a very simple system. He took one of those big white plastic banquet tables and put it in the basement. And he piled 100 pieces of information, 8.5 by 11 flyer type of things, 10 piles, and 100 pieces in each pile, at least. On the first week, he had 10 names, and he put that on top of the first pile and sent out those 10 names, that one document in pile number 1. During the course of the next week, he collected 10 more names. And then he moved that first list to the second pile and put the first pile with the second week's names on it. And then he moved them every week as he added 10 more names each week. And he had a constant flowing pipeline, a full pipeline of up to 100 people who were getting mail from him every single week, and on every 3rd week he would call them. It's not hard. It was a very, very simple program. And within the course of about 2 years, he was doing over $500,000 a year in commissions. And that's all he did. To prospect. When you're going after for sale by owners, Take a positive approach. Avoid challenging. Don't argue with them. Provide them helpful information, not all the reasons they should list with a realtor. You will come off as argumentative if you do that. Provide objective articles with proof, not subjective opinion. And one of the things that I'm going to do right now is I'm going to provide a link to a document on Inman, which you may find helpful. If I can multitask just here for a moment, give me a second. If my computer will speed up a little bit. Hang in there, almost there. Okay, I just provided that link under my notice. FSBOs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, but read it afterwards because I want to continue here. When you get a listing appointment, let's pretend that all of a sudden you get a listing appointment from one of those impossible for sale by owners. Go to the appointment with everything. Then stop and listen. Ask them questions. The most frequent mistake agents make with for sale by owners is talking too much. Trying to sell. Uncover their problem before you try to offer solutions. Why are they selling? When do they need to sell? How do they arrive at their price? What do they need in net proceeds to make a move? What do they believe is the reason that their house has not yet sold? Here's what to take on a for sale by owner appointment. Your listing presentation, your marketing plan specifically for their home, samples of your work. For example, I can go to a listing appointment, pull up YouTube, and show them my Don Phelan channel and show them videos that I've created for other clients with professional voiceovers, professional editing, music, drone photography, and so on. I can show them all of those things right on my YouTube channel. In addition, I can show them brochures that I've created, open house flyers, and all of those things that I carry with me on a listing appointment. Show them your track record. How many homes have you sold? How long have you been in the business? Your percentage of sales price to list price. Ever since I've been in the business, I've calculated what my listings sell for on average, and I can tell you it's 97% of the listed price. Over more than 30 years in the business, I know exactly what my sales price to list price average is, and it's 97%. And the reason is that I do really, really strong CMAs, and then I market the daylights out of the house. What's your average time on the market? Do you know the average time on the market for the listings that you've had? If you don't, figure it out and take it with you. Do you have testimonials, satisfied clients who love the daylights out of you? Have that in your listing presentation. Have a CMA that will show realistically what their house is worth, not what they think it is, but what it's really going to sell for. We'll deal with objection handling techniques on price on another time, but have that CMA with you. And then have all of the forms prepared, filled out, except for maybe the price and their signature, ready for them in the event they want to move forward. Be ready, be prepared. Don't fumble through trying to explain the contract. Know what the contract says. Read it, understand it, and make sure you can explain it to a potential client. If you get the listing, do those things that you promised. A video, a brochure, mailings, open house, whatever. Stay in touch at least once per week, even though nothing has happened, even though they haven't had a showing. Call them and say, hey, we've not gotten any calls for a showing. We've had 420 hits on the Grand Rapids Association of Realtors. We've had 120 hits on Realtor.com. What that's starting to tell me is that buyers out there might be finding homes that are more suitable to them in this price range than yours is. The next week you may ask for a price reduction, but talk to them every single week. Give feedback fast. When I leave an open house, I pick up my signs that are out, directional signs, and the first thing I do as I'm driving away is I call the seller, because they've been at the movie theater and they haven't been watching the movie. They've been eating popcorn, wondering what in the world is going on at their open house. Well, honey, will anybody like the house? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. I really cleaned. We really did a great job cleaning it up. I know it worked so hard. And that's what they've been thinking about for the last 3 hours. So I call them and I tell them we had 14 people through, or we had none through. I call them because they're waiting to hear. And if they have to wait till the next morning to hear from you, that's not good enough. They want to know now. Same thing when you have showings. If an agent gives you feedback, get that feedback into the hands or the ears, as the case may be, of your client immediately. Hey, I just got a call from so-and-so who just showed your house. They had some really good things to say. They like this, they like this, they like this. They were a little iffy on the Harvest Gold appliances and the orange shag carpeting. Okay? Give them feedback, both good feedback and the not so good feedback, because ultimately the not so good feedback is going to get you a price reduction if it needs be. How to get Fizbos to work with you and your buyers. Number one, never promise your buyers they will not pay a commission. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard agents tell buyers, oh, don't worry, work with me, you won't be paying a commission. Really? Huh. Sometimes when I've sold for sale by owners, the way that I've sold them is by encouraging the buyer to be the one to pay the commission, my commission, because I helped them buy a house. So the first thing is never promise them that they're not going to be the ones who pay a commission. Now, they may not have the money to pay the commission. That's a different story. But if they do have the money, why is it carved in stone that the seller always has to pay a commission? Leave your options open. Avoid cutting your commissions because you think you must. Too often I see agents working with both parties for 3% of the sales price. They are getting paid a buyer's side commission, but doing all the work. Let me pose you a question. Would you ask an Uber driver to take you downtown and then come and get you 4 hours later and take you home, but you're only going to pay him for the ride downtown? What do you think the Uber driver's answer would be to that one? I'm guessing no. No, you'd be walking home. So there is this assumption that agents sometimes make that 3% is enough to sell a for sale by owner. Why? I'm going to challenge you and say, you can get more than that. And here's how. I'm even going to tell you how. Ask the for sale by owner if they're willing to pay commission. If so, how much? 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%? I don't know. Ask. There's nothing wrong with collecting a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% commission from the for sale by owner and another 2 or 3% from the buyer. Did you ever think of that? What if they both paid you 3%? Wow. You just got a full commission on a for sale by owner. Is that greedy? Not if you can get it. It's good business. Fizbo, and here's why. Right here's the reason. Fizbos tend to be high maintenance. They already think they're paying you too much, so they're going to make you jump through hoops. Expect it. Be ready for it. If a Fizbo agrees to pay you, the buyer's agent, a commission, get it in writing, including the $295 administration fee, broker admin fee, or whatever you charge. You can use a compensation agreement, a one-party listing. If you're able to list the property, you may be putting yourself in a dual agency position, which must be approved in writing by both parties, and you must have a buyer's agency contract signed, not just a buyer's agent designated agency addendum, as well as the listing contract before you can get the dual agency agreement signed. Let me be clear. You do not need to represent the seller, even if the seller is paying a commission and a broker admin fee. Compensation and representation are two different things. You may still represent the buyer and get compensation from the seller. Also, you don't have to have a buyer's agency contract signed in order to collect the full commission, both sides, or in the vernacular of the trade, double dip. We all know what double dip means. It means that we're getting both sides of the commission. That's built into the listing contract at 6 or 7%, whatever it is you charge. You don't have to write up anything for the buyer if you're representing the seller. The buyer's on their own. We can't, if you do write up a buyer's agency contract, you're now in undisclosed dual agency, which is illegal. And so you have to get both parties to agree before you can go into dual agency, in which case you can't actually represent either of them. So stay in the seller's position. It's really very simple. It's very straightforward. Some agents think they are sub-agents to the listing contract when they fill things out. If you're working for the seller as their listing agent, that's all you are, the seller's agent. You can't be a sub-agent to yourself. Here's a question I get a lot. Why is a Fizbo required to pay a broker admin fee when I don't represent them? Again, it's simple. Compensation and representation are separate issues. When we take on the responsibility for a first sale by owner in a transaction, 5-Star shoulders all of the responsibility, all of the liability. There is no other broker sharing potential liability. Every time we make an E&O claim, it increases our chances that our premiums are going to go up. Negligence on the part of the agent is not covered under E&O, and negligent claims and claims arising from illegal practices such as undisclosed dual agency may not be covered under E&O at all. Those settlements come straight out of 5-Star's pocket. That's the big reason that we have to collect a $295 on as many transactions as we can, including for sale by owner transactions. In addition, we have to create a ledger for the for sale by owner seller. Our branch administrators must review the file, the bookkeeping department must review the file, and we have to keep those records on the records for 7 years. In addition to that, we like to keep the lights on. So the $295 covers a myriad of things, the biggest of which is the issue of liability. So I hope that encourages you to go out and go after some for sale by owners as listings and how to work I like that pile suggestion. I'm sorry, Lori, can you explain that one?
You can answer that one in the comments later.
I'll try to answer that in comments later. One more thing I want to touch on, and this is kind of a small point, but it's one that I've noticed. Last week, I got at least 10 calls from our agents who pronounced the word realtor as 3 syllables, realtor. It's realtor. And I just want to share that if you go to your doctor and he says to you, I'm a docator, would that give you confidence in him, in his profession? I encourage you to pronounce realtor as realtor, not as 3 syllables, because it may diminish someone's confidence in you if you're mispronouncing it. So, what is the piles? I'm going to see if I can.
I think I had something from early on when you were talking about the guy who had the piles of paper and like.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, I don't know how to do that other than to imagine a table with literally piles of stacked up of different items, subjects to send out, flyers on financing or inspections, or you can get things off the internet really easily, and whatever, just, and then send those things out to the Fizbo on a weekly basis, something new every week. And as you do that, you move the list along from 1, 2, 3 pile to the 10th pile. And if you haven't achieved any success at that point with any of those leads, then you throw that list away. You're not going to, after 10, you're probably not going to get it. But don't stop at 3 or 4 or 5 like most agents do. It's the money in FSBOs is in that 3 to 10 week period where other agents have bailed out and stopped, and you're the only one that's still going, just maintaining contact with them. And Lori, give me a call. I'll be happy to walk through that with you better if it would help through a phone call. So with that, if there are no other questions, okay. I hope that helps. Go get some FSBOs. Either sell them or list them. And I wish you well. See you here next week. Thanks.